Good day, everyone. Imagine you've just gotten into your dream university in a big city. You're looking for an apartment, something close to shops, restaurants, and all the excitement downtown. But when you check the rent prices near the city center, your jaw drops. Why is it so expensive to live there? The answer lies in a concept called bid-rent theory. Bid-rent curve theory explains how land prices and demand for real estate vary with distance from the central business district, CBD, in urban areas. It suggests that different land users will bid varying amounts for land based on their specific needs and accessibility to the CBD, leading to a gradient of land value that decreases as one moves away from the center. Bid-rent theory explains how land values change depending on how close or far you are from a city's central business district, or CBD, the heart of commerce and activity. According to the theory, the closer you are to the CBD, the higher the cost of land or rent. The idea was first developed by William Alonzo, an urban planner and economist. In his 1964 book, Location and Land Use, Alonzo showed how businesses, ECs, and residents essentially bid for land, each offering different amounts depending on their needs. Think of it as a curve. At the very center, the CBD, retail businesses are willing to pay the highest prices. Why? Because being downtown gives them the most customers, foot traffic, and profits. A step further out, industries pay moderate prices. They need space and good transport routes, but they don't need to be in the middle of the action. Finally, residential areas are found even farther out. People want more space and lower rents, even if it means longer commutes. The bid-rent theory can be visualized as a bid-rent curve. Imagine a graph where the vertical axis is land rent and the horizontal axis is distance from the CBD. Each land user has their own downward-sloping curve. The steepest curve belongs to commercial users, followed by industrial and then residential users. The actual land value at any given distance is determined by the highest bidder at that point, which creates a stepped curve. In the CBD, the commercial bid-rent curve is the highest. As we move away, the commercial curve drops sharply, and at a certain point, the industrial curve becomes the highest, and so on. This neatly explains the distinct land use zones we see in cities across the Philippines and around the world. It's a clear illustration of how economic forces shape the geography of our urban areas. Let's take Seattle as an example. In the CBD, one-bedroom apartments can go for over $3,000 a month, and retail spaces are the most expensive in the city. But just a few miles away, in industrial or residential districts, prices drop dramatically. This pattern fits exactly what bid-rent theory predicts. The theory is simple and intuitive, which makes it useful for understanding why downtown space is so costly. But it has its limits. Not all cities follow the same pattern. Tokyo, for instance, has multiple CBDs, while some suburban cities have none at all. And in today's world, online shopping challenges the idea that businesses must be located in the CBD to succeed. So why were those downtown apartments so expensive? Because everyone, from retailers to residents, is competing for the limited space in the city center. That's bid-rent theory in action. Next time you wonder why rent is sky-high downtown, you'll know it's not just about the view. It's about economics, location, and the invisible bidding war for land. Now let's look at how this plays out in a city like Manila. 1. The Central Business District, CBD, Makati and Ortigas. When I think of the CBDs in Manila, I immediately think of Makati and Ortigas. These are the economic hearts of the metropolis. They are packed with skyscrapers, corporate headquarters, high-end shopping malls, and fancy restaurants. The land here is the most expensive in the entire country. Why? Because countless businesses, from multinational corporations to luxury brands, are competing for a presence there. The high concentration of offices and commercial activity means that a huge number of people are working, shopping, and commuting to this area. For a business, being in Makati or Ortigas means being where the action is, which translates to a higher potential for profit. 2. The industrial and transitional zone. As I move away from the highly commercialized centers of Makati or Ortigas, I start to see industrial areas. Consider parts of Pasig or even further out towards Laguna and Cavite. These areas are home to warehouses, factories, and logistics hubs. Industrial businesses need a lot of land for their operations, and they don't rely on the same kind of foot traffic as a retail store. The land here is cheaper, but still well connected to major roads and ports, which is crucial for moving goods. This is their optimal location, a balance between cost and accessibility. 3. The residential areas and suburbs. Even further out from the city center, I find the vast residential areas and suburbs. Think of places like Quezon City, or even cities just outside Metro Manila, like Antipolo or Santa Rosa. People who live here often commute into the city center for work. The land here is significantly cheaper than in Makati or Ortigas, which makes it more affordable for housing. Developers can build subdivisions, and families can buy homes with more space. For many, the trade-off of a longer commute is worth the lower cost of land and a quieter, less congested living environment. Let us now discuss a new theory. How do farmers decide what crops to grow and where to grow them? In 1826, German economist Johann Heinrich von Thünen proposed one of the earliest scientific models to explain agricultural land use around a central market. Known as the von Thünen model, it shows how distance, transportation costs, and land values shape farming practices. Despite being nearly 200 years old, this model still influences our understanding of agricultural geography today. Von Thünen imagined an isolated state, a flat, uniform landscape with a single central market town, equal soil fertility across all land, farmers acting rationally to maximize profit, no transportation technology beyond carts and wagons. Under these conditions, different types of farming form concentric rings around the city. First ring is the dairy and market gardening closest to the city, because products like milk, fruits, and vegetables are highly perishable. High transportation cost and spoilage risks make proximity essential. Today, this is similar to peri-urban agriculture near large cities. Second ring is the forestry surrounding the first ring is an area devoted to wood and fuel. In the 19th century, cities required large quantities of firewood for cooking and heating. Bulky and expensive to transport, wood had to be produced near the market. Peat, 1970, Isu. Third ring is the grains and field crops. Less perishable crops like wheat, corn, and other grains dominate this zone. These crops are lighter, easier to transport, and do not spoil quickly. Farmers balance transport costs with land rent, producing intensively here. Fourth ring is the livestock ranching. Farthest from the city is grazing and livestock ranching. Animals can walk to market, reducing transportation costs. Land rent is lowest here, making it suitable for extensive farming. Although von Thünen's original model assumed a simple world, its logic still applies today. Transportation improvements, refrigeration, and globalization have reshaped the rings, but the principle remains. The cost of land and transport influences what is grown where. For example, modern studies in China show modified von Thünen patterns in agricultural land use, with distance from urban markets still affecting crop choices. Even in historical contexts, geographers use von Thünen's theory to analyze patterns of settlement and farming. In the Philippines, von Thünen's model can be observed in the way agricultural zones are organized around Metro Manila. In the first ring, peri-urban farms in Bulacan and Laguna supply fresh vegetables, poultry, and dairy products, high-value perishable goods that must reach markets quickly. The second ring historically drew from the Sierra Madre mountain range, which provided timber and charcoal to Manila, with high transport costs requiring production to remain relatively close to the city. The third ring is represented by the rice fields of central Luzon, particularly Nueva Ecija and Pampanga, where rice, the staple crop, can be stored and transported more easily, allowing production to occur further from the capital while still supplying its needs. Finally, in the fourth ring, cattle and livestock production takes place in more distant areas such as Mindoro and parts of Mindanao, where animals can be moved live to urban markets, reducing spoilage concerns. The Sierra Madre provides a strong example of this model applied in the Philippine context, as research shows how forest resources, agriculture, and urban demand intersect in this region, with Manila's need for food and timber-shaping land use so that peri-urban zones are intensively farmed, while more distant areas are devoted to grazing or logging. Von Thünen's model provides a simple yet powerful way to think about agricultural location. While modern realities are more complex, the idea that distance, transport, and land value shape farming decisions continues to be a cornerstone of agricultural geography. Thank you very much.